Don't love your family to death. I met up with one interventionist, Sam Davis, at Mount Regis to discuss how addiction affects the whole family. See what he has to say.
My job as an interventionist is to guide the families through the entire recovery process. Families, when they have a loved one that's struggling with addiction or alcoholism, a lot of times don't know what to do. And if they go with their instinct, a lot of times that is the wrong thing to do because what they end up doing is literally loving their loved one to death. Also, what the family will do a lot of the times is they'll let the individual who's addicted to alcohol or drugs completely dictate what their treatment looks like or completely dictate what their idea of a solution to their addiction looks like. And you have to remember that the addict or alcoholic suffers from a distorted thought process. A lot of times it's been a long time since that individual has made a really great decision. So the families, it's a family illness. Addiction is not a spectator sport. The entire family gets to play. So when a family member is kind of at the end of their rope and they don't know what to do and they want to get their loved one help, they'll call a treatment center. They can call us directly and says, we really need to get our loved one help, but they don't really want to go to treatment. They're unwilling or unable to admit that they have a problem. A lot of times what the family does not understand is that they have a tremendous amount of leverage. They're enabling their loved one. So what we do is we come in and we coach the family. We kind of form a committee with family members and friends and myself or the interventionist. And our goal is in a matter of days or a week is to take the power away from their addiction and give it back to the family where it belongs and get that individual into treatment the day of the intervention. 95% of the time, it happens that day.
And a lot of times I think what families don't realize is that they're just trying to love that loved one and they don't want that loved one to, argue with them or to leave the house or to disappear. And so they give them the things that they ask for, whether it's money or a ride to pick up the substance. And so what they're really doing is hurting them more than they're helping.
Absolutely. See, an individual is not going to stop doing drugs or drinking or both unless they have enough consequences, and where the consequences are much more than the reward they're getting from the use. Okay? And families rob their loved one of the experience that they must have in order for them to reach the amount of pain necessary for them to want to make a change. So this may sound bad, but what we want to do is we want to create pain for that individual so to motivate them for change. An intervention is not, when people hear the word intervention, they think we're just going to come in, with both barrels pulled, loaded for bear, and that's not the case. It's a conversation, it's an offer for help. It's a family coming together out of love. It's got to be out of love, and saying that we love you enough that we're not going to sit around and let this happen anymore. It's not a yelling match. It's not, I've never seen a glass fly. I've never seen broken glass or holes in a wall from an intervention. I just haven't. They follow a letter format that we give them. They follow a role that we assign them. Other than reading their letter, the family members say nothing at all. The interventionist does all the talking. It shuts out the dialogue.
And what made you want to become an interventionist?
Well, I'm a recovered addict and alcoholic. I roared through the lives of my family like a tornado. I'd lost my kids, I'd lost my business, I'd lost everything. I was in a family business for 4 generations, been to jail. Just created complete wreckage in my family's lives. And I was intervened on. And what happened was my family was coached. And when my family changed the way that they did business with this addict and alcoholic, I changed. And I went to treatment, got sober, started working in the field, worked at a treatment center. And it kind of chose me. I didn't choose it. But I remember when I was intervened on and I was on an airplane flying to treatment. See, I'd woken up in Virginia that day and planned to lay my head in Virginia that night. Well, later that afternoon, I'm on an airplane headed to treatment. And I remember looking at this interventionist in this plane, and I looked at him, and I was all out of it. And I said, I'm going to do what this guy does one day. Had no idea that it would ever happen. No idea, so.
And the great thing, too, is you don't just leave the addict at treatment. You actually go back and work with the family. So when they do get help, they come back to an environment that's actually safer and better for them when they do return home.
With healthy boundaries. Like I said, 95% of the time, interventions work in getting an individual into treatment that day. A big question that the families ask every time when they're asking about an intervention is, what if they say no? There's no such thing as an unsuccessful intervention as long as the family is willing to follow some directions. If an individual refuses to accept the help that's offered them that day, it's usually because they don't believe the boundaries that the families have set, and they want to test the waters a little bit. They've never had an experience that showed them that mom was going to shut the phone off or not give them any money or take the car or any number of things that the family can utilize that they currently were enabling their loved one with. But after a couple of days, if the family just holds strong, with me guiding them, right? I'm not going to leave them out to pasture, right? As long as we're guiding them, the individual will usually wave the flag and say, look, I'm ready to get some help. I'm ready to get some help. But once that individual, we transport that individual to treatment, get them from the door of the intervention to the door of the treatment center. Treatment team takes over. We're in the background with the family, coaching them on what to do, what to expect from that individual once he gets or she gets to treatment, and how to keep, I like to say, advancing the ball once that individual is nearing the end of his treatment. You know, so transitional living, recovery enhancement programs, maybe an extended care, IOP, and always suggest things for the family to do. What a lot of people don't understand is that an individual that suffers from addiction and alcoholism has usually experienced some trauma. But loved ones trying to desperately save their loved one from addiction, that's traumatic as well. So you're dealing with a family, an entire family that has had a traumatic experience, and they need help themselves. You know, whether it be Al-Anon, individual counseling. There's some workshops they can go to for codependency, grief, and loss. You know, it's a family illness. Absolutely.
So if you need an intervention, you can give Sam a call at 1-877-487-1599, or you can call him on his cell at 512-777-9852, or you can go online to his website, broadhighwayrecovery.com. From there, if you want to get help with Mount Regis, you can call them at 540-389-4761. They're located on Kimball Avenue in Salem, and you can go online to mountregis.com.